Hiya. I said I'd come on to a live stream earlier on in the day because I uploaded a video, which I will link you now. Can't get the window to behave. There's all this stuff in the way. All the stuff on the taskbar is getting in the way of actually drag the taskbar away. I did a video. I woke up this morning and noticed it wasn't raining. We've had terrible rain here, and we're very lucky on St. Patrick's Day, not Patty's Day, Americans. Please stop calling it Patty's Day. There's no Patty. Patty is a girl name for us. There's no St. Patty or anything. It's Paddy's Day if you must abbreviate, but St. Patrick's Day or Patrick's Day. Anyway, that was just a bee in my bonnet. Now, I'm sure I have loads of isms in things that I say that annoy the heck out of people. It wasn't raining for Patrick's Day. I couldn't believe it. And then it wasn't raining the day after because I have been complaining about it constantly raining here. And so I decided to go out, rush outside because it wasn't raining. And I've been holed up in the house for ages because the rain has been torrential. And, oh yeah, I don't have that's one of the videos. There was another video that inspired me that I wanted to share with you. That link that I had there was, sorry, I can't do two things at once. I must be a guy, not a girl. I can't multitask. The video that inspired me to go off painting was a video I was watching last night. That I don't know if she was a Polish lady. I don't know where she's from. It sounded like her name sounded like maybe Polish or Eastern European. But she had very good technique for watercolor, little tricks and things. And she had this one of trees, and she was doing a wet on wet watercolor painting, which is when you get the paper all wet first and then you work into it while it's still wet, and you get lovely misty effects from it. So she was doing this wet on wet painting of trees, and it was kind of a misty forest thing. And I was looking at this and I was going, oh yeah, I'd love to be out painting in the forest now. So today when the sun was shining, I said, okay, well, it doesn't look like it'll hold necessarily. So I might go out, but where can I go that's near? I didn't want to be traveling half the day. So I went out to this place that's not too hard to get to, not very far away. And it's a little kind of a fishing spot up this little road, quiet little road. And it's a place that I wanted to paint at for ages. And what I wanted to do was some sketches and color studies, and then come back and do start an oil painting from it, because watercolor isn't really my medium. I have done some, but I get a little bit frustrated with them because they're not naturally a medium that suits me. I like being able to push the paint around, and if something doesn't work, come back and work over it and do things. And watercolor tends to get worse if something goes wrong and you're working into it and everything. It can be hard to correct. There are ways to you can lift the paint and things. If you still have it wet, you can lift the paint out a bit with brushes, work back into it. When it's dry, it's more challenging to do things with. It's also a completely different touch for it and approach. So the way I use it sometimes is I'd go out and I'd do sketches, just tonal stuff. Or sometimes I went through a phase of using coloured pencils and finding those quite interesting to work with as well. Sorry, I keep fixing my glasses because they're so crooked all the time. But I bring watercolours and I might do what I'd call colour studies, not finished pieces. The piece I did today looks like a finished piece, but it isn't a finished piece that I'd be happy with. So it's a piece that I'm going to work from. So, in the link there, I showed you me going out where I was going to paint, and showed you the paints I was using and the materials I brought with me for like a field kit, which is kind of a compact little kit of essentials that you bring with you when you're going out to paint, and talked about that a bit. And then I just showed the piece at the end. Was fairly fuzzy what I showed you, but I said, well, I'm not going to show you me painting because I don't want to have to edit together very, very long pieces. And I'm sitting here with the camera that the battery is going to go in and everything. But what I might do is come on later and do a live stream and do a little critique of what I did. Not critique it as a finished piece as such, but as a piece to see, do I have enough information there to work with to start a painting from? And you find out when you start drawing in the groundwork or painting in the groundwork for a painting, whether you have enough information. But the other way to do it, of course, is you sit at home and you have I have my little sketch now, you see. I'll show you what I came home with. You get time off from looking at my face, and you can look down here. I'm hoping you're going to be able to see this. That was what I came home with, right? It does look like a finished painting, but I am not happy with it because, like, there are some really fantastic watercolor painters out there, and I'm not one of them. And in fact, I will be honest and say that although I have been doing landscape for a while, I'm still not what I would say good at it. The most recent one I've done, I actually had done these on live streams, but I don't have them uploaded. I don't have that session uploaded on my channel before. That's the most recent one I've done. Sort of came out okay. I did that out in the painting, the oil painting itself, not out in the field, but I did sketches for it and had photographs. And then this one, same thing. I had, sorry, it's very hard to get my lighting right for these things. Either blinding me or you can't see anything at all, and it's always rather yellow. So that one, what did I have for that? That was adapted from sketches, a combination of sketches and photographs, which I didn't stick to particularly closely. I had done a mix of a few different things, like the background and that. I'll just show you. This is a strangely shaped painting. This is done on hardboard. This was just leftover wood that I had. You see, it had elements of some of the stuff that was in the background of this one in it. Because I didn't have, in my sketchbook, I think I had some of the hawthorn bushes in the foreground and wasn't concentrating on the background in the sketches. So sometimes if you have a lot of sketches going, you're mixing and matching elements in the landscape in your final painting because you don't have enough information for the final painting. Somebody who used to do that a lot was Turner, who used to have, like, I was lucky enough to see some of his sketchbooks. Loads of little bits of things on different pages, and then he'd make a composition from them, and he did some amazing paintings. I have a poster on the wall there of a view of, I think it's a view of some bridge outside Luxembourg. He was very widely travelled. If you ever get any books on him, read them, because I have a book there actually that I bought it last time I was in the National Gallery. I have still to read. I have read, I'm just trying to find that book to show you now. I saw it there last night. It's looking at me. Where is the little thing gone? I had read one on him and I can't remember the writer. Here it is. Can't remember the writer's name, but this one got a fantastic review. Artists are always interesting to read about, but Turner is particularly interesting. He had a really energetic guy and had a fantastically interesting life and used to travel a lot and do big walking tours and everything. Went over the Alps and liked Scotland and walked all the mountains. And this is J.M.W. Turner, The Extraordinary Life and Momentous Times of by Franny Moyle. And got very good reviews. I haven't read that one yet. Loads of colour plates in it as well. But he's a very interesting person to read about. But watercolour, superb he is at watercolours. But I'm not. But what I want to do is take this sketch and critique it in terms, looking at it in terms of, am I going to be able to work that up into in an oil painting? The subject is difficult. Water is awfully difficult. There's a lot going on, you know. Now, you could watch loads of videos how to do water, and you can learn the tricks of how to do water. I think with art, sometimes you are better discovering how to do things yourself. You don't want to end up as, sorry, I'm not even in the shot. Just a big mouth. And a painting that's fuzzy. You don't want to end up looking like how can I put it? Somebody with an eye for art can always see this. If somebody is a slick painter who has loads of tricks and their stuff looks really professional and everything, but it has no individuality or soul in it, quite often there'll be somebody who has looked at loads of tutorials and developed loads of tricks that make the thing look really slick, but they haven't arrived at it themselves the hard way, and it shows in a painting. That doesn't mean that, you know, every painting is a good painting that you struggle with. Like, you know, you have to be able to judge a painting and say that is not working as a painting. There are certain elements in representative painting that make a painting work, and you can judge a painting, you know, if you have education enough in looking at art and have developed an eye for art, about, you know, and even somebody who hasn't. Some people are very sensitive to art and they look at something and they go, that's not doing it for me. I don't know why, but it's not doing it for me. So I'm looking at this one and I'm trying to figure out, am I going to be able to work from it? And what I did was, when I came home, I got my watercolors out again, and I said, okay, well, what I'll do is I'll think about it as I'm painting again, and I'll start looking at, well, how I wasn't happy with how the water turned out, because I don't think it explains what was going on terribly well. Colors and everything look a bit mucky in it to me. And the structures. So there's problems going on with both the color and the structure. So it's not sitting in a very happy way, in a beautiful way, if you like, as a finished watercolor piece. It's not achieving anything. But there are descriptive things happening that are helping me remember the scene, right? So what I'm doing is I'm sitting here looking at it, and I'm going to work away again on it to see, can I remember more. Now, I have a slight problem going in that I don't have backup sketches. I brought out a little small sketch pad earlier. Sorry, I'll let you see me again for a second. I brought out a small sketch pad with me earlier, and I had said, yeah, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to do a sketch as well as what I was calling the colour study, this watercolour piece. Because what I was trying to do is, in one, look mostly at the colour. Sometimes if you separate out colour and form, you get more information about what you are painting. So it helps to think about those two things separately sometimes. Now, I could have done that as just color marks on the piece of paper, and I have done that before. I've done a sketch which gives me structure and is a tonal thing, right? In whatever medium, pen or pencil or whatever. Normally, I'd use pencil because you get more finer detail in it without having to get into hatching and weird things. I find it easier to shade with pencil. So I might do a pencil sketch, and down the side of the thing, I end up with some sketches written all over, because down the side I might have some color notes done in watercolor to try and match colors. Say I had that group of trees I was doing, I'd try and match colors in the trees and different colors in the moss and stuff like that down the side. And on the actual drawing itself, I might have a big arrow going out towards the color and say, um, bough of tree, or highlighted moss. Darker moss might be another color, and I'd have arrows going here and there. And I might take written notes as well on it, about, um, something like, if I can't get a color right or something, I might say a darker bluey gray than this, or something, or raking light, or something that is a memory aid to you when you get home. And that's the idea of it, that you're not working on a finished piece. You're not saying, okay, I'm going to make this piece look like I meant to do it from start to finish, and it's going to turn out, hopefully, looking like a good finished painting. You're not trying to do that when you're doing a field study for something. A study for something is a work that you do towards another piece. And the purpose of doing that would be that you have typically a limited amount of time, because you're outside in weather. And unless you are lucky enough to live somewhere where the weather is fairly stable and nice and you're not going to get cold, you're going to run out of time. And just with lighting as well, you're going to run out of time. Even somebody like, I always get Monet and Manet mixed up. Monet, uh, who did a lot of his impressionist stuff outdoors, and say he's sitting around in fields doing paintings of haystacks or something. He might have had 4 paintings, say, going in one day. He might have gone out in the morning, had one canvas for the morning, and then he'd get an hour or two in on that. Then the light would change, because the sun is moving, isn't it? So, your lighting is going to change, and your shadows are different, and the quality of the light is different, and it affects the colors. And of course, with your light source moving on the thing, it changes what the structure looks like. And they're very interesting. The haystack pictures in particular are very interesting, because they're a very good illustration of that. You can see how you can paint the same subject, and the lighting can be completely and utterly different. You could get, I don't know how many paintings he had in that series, but there's a good few of them, and the lighting is completely different. In some, I remember ones that were a bluish lighting in them, and they looked to me like they were done very early in the morning. And then he had other ones that were pink, and they looked to me like they were done in the evening. Very beautiful paintings too. Like, they're when you see things online, doesn't do them justice at all. I can't recommend enough going to galleries and seeing some of the good stuff. I don't think I've seen the haystacks in person, but I'd being into art and everything, I'd be looking at stuff in books all the time, and it's you get no sense of its presence really from a book. It is, we're very lucky we have printing and everything, and good color processing and everything, so you can see, you get an idea about the painting. But it's totally different being in a room with the painting than it is looking at it in a book. So, it's a nice experience going to a gallery and seeing things. So your lighting is going to change. The weather is going to change. So the idea of doing a field study is that you're not going to do all the work out there in situ. Now, there are times when you can do that, but obviously there are going to be times you're not going to be able to do that because it starts raining, and it spoils the whole show unless you have a great cover and everything, and you could be going out in terrible weather. Turner never let weather get in his way. He was once, it was said, strapped himself to a mast of a ship to get some effect of a storm or something, I admire his style and his persistence, but it is nice to go out and have a bit of comfort. It's also nice to come into a studio and have the comfort and all your materials laid out and everything, and you're not uncomfortable painting. So there's that. And then there's the fact that some subjects are tricky enough in terms of the amount of things you have to juggle with them. There's form, color, composition, right? Composition is, most people have an okay sense of composition naturally. It doesn't necessarily have to be taught, but obviously it takes a lot of practice to get good at drawing. And um, you're out, say you're out doing a landscape, that landscape, there were a lot of different elements going on in it that just to get the amount of information I wanted in it, I would have needed a longer session. I would have needed a summer day and go out in the morning and a couple of hours, then assuming it wasn't frozen cold because it was still a cold time of year, get a bit of lunch, relax, while you're going to be peeing in a bush anyway if you're out in a field trip, but get another couple of hours in. So it'd be like 4 or 5 hours maybe getting the information that you wanted. So like it's a full day out doing something. But I was out in the afternoon and I knew I had a few hours. So I had about 2 hours out there. But for the kinds of information I was looking at, it was very information rich. There was a lot in the painting because I know that although the watercolor wouldn't turn out well, I know from working with oil paints a lot, that I like a lot happening in a painting, a lot of different, structural elements going on, and different, I won't call it elements of pattern, but like say I would like the structure of moss and the roundiness of it. And I like the contrast of all the spikiness of the tree branches and the spikiness of all that. Sorry, you can't see this so well. Spikiness of all the gorse bush and everything. I liked that. And then I liked the long linear thing of the water happening, and that was attractive too. Then in terms of, then I had another element back here. There was a bridge here, which I only sort of thought about towards the end of things, and I just suggested it in this one, but I thought, yeah, I'd like that in the painting as well, because I like a geometric shape in the middle of, well, not in the middle, but I like a geometric shape stopping that triangle there. Like when you analyze the composition of that, you've got a triangular shape coming down this way, another triangular shape coming up that way. And this is nice. See it without it. It's nice. That adds an element of interest there. Also, the fact that this leads the eye in somewhere, because there were dark shadows that it led you into the caviness under the bridge. And also the fact of having something distant and something near, I liked. This as a device, I don't like generally. You see a lot of paintings that use the device of having foliage in the foreground coming in from outside the painting somewhere, right? And then you'll have whatever is supposed to be the main element in the composition that your eye looks at first, in the mid distance. But this thing of having this foliage coming into the foreground, although it's a good device for depth of field, for giving you depth of field, it's rather hackneyed device in so far as it gets used a lot. And if you look at a lot of photography, or you go and looking at various watercolor or painting tutorials online, you will see that device used a lot. So it's hard to use it without looking like you've learned a trick. You've learned a trick from a tutorial, and you go, oh, to add interest in a painting, I'll stick my foliage in, and I know how to do foliage, so I'll just paint it away the way I always paint it. You don't really want to have that attitude. But however, when I went out, that thing was in the way. And, I could not see anything behind it, and I couldn't get access to any area to see around it, and it was basically chopped down a gorse bush to have access down behind it. So I said, well, look, I don't hate it so much that, okay, it's hackneyed and everything, but I don't hate it so much, and I shouldn't resent it so much that I let the idea that people use it as a hackneyed device interfere with the fact it's actually part of the scene that I'm looking at here, and it does contribute to my composition in that I can't get rid of it. I don't want to make up stuff instead of it. I'm really not into making up stuff at all for a painting that's going to be painting from observation. You might have come across, well, probably you didn't, I have darn all the subscribers, but I had another video where I was trying sumi-e painting, and that's a sort of a Japanese painting style that it's quite formulaic in some sense, in that you learn particular brush strokes, and there is a way of going about doing a painting. This is a different mindset you have for this. Observational painting is only dealing with what's in front of you. It's not to do with the idea of a tree, or the idealization of a tree, that this is how a tree branch is always painted, and it might turn out a little bit differently, but the brushstroke is always done like this. That's not what observational painting is about. Observational painting, you're spending 99% of your time looking at the tree in front of you, and you're not knowing it's a tree as such. You're not telling yourself, this is a tree, I have to have branches, and I have to have this, and I have to have that. That is not your mindset at all. You're looking at that thing called a tree in front of you that you know is a tree, but you have reduced it to a set of interlocking shapes that are interacting with each other, with negative spaces going on as well, the spaces between things. And the spaces between the branches, say, become as important to your observation as the branches. So when you're observing that tree and looking up, looking at it really hard, doing your line, looking up again, you're judging a distance, say, between that branch and another branch based on the negative space between them. So you actually are looking maybe at the shape of the negative space. Oh, look, it's a diamond shape between those. So that becomes an object as well, if you see what I mean. The negative space also becomes an object as much as the tree does. So it's not necessarily even the same kind of vision you're using as the vision you use in your everyday walking around, because we don't think about the spaces between things very much when we're walking around, do we? We tend to just look for objects, and then we say we're looking for objects because I'm going to walk around them and avoid them. But when you're trying to get things down accurately, in order to, I mean, you're doing a trick. You are doing a trick, really, because you're putting something that is three-dimensional interaction between three-dimensional objects down on a flat piece of paper with some sort of a medium, scratchy medium that's helping you do it. So you are performing a trick, but you want the trick to be really convincing. And in order for it to be convincing, it has to be very accurately observed rather than talking about just the idea of what a tree looks. When children start painting first, I haven't read any psychology books or anything on this, but if you have seen children's paintings, a lot of them are about the idea of what something looks like. For example, a picture of you know, myself, mummy, daddy, and my brother. Um, that would be now motor coordination and being able to hold a pencil properly, and all this comes into it as well. But when you look at stick figures and things, it's about the idea. They know there's a wider bit in the middle of the body, so it might be a triangular shape, and then stick legs, stick arms, and then you've got fingers maybe sticking out, and a roundy head and everything. It's a generalization about things. That ends up with the thing that's recognizable, but is not a closely observed thing. And so that is why I'm sitting here. I won't bore you with the whole thing, but I'll show you how I would go about it. You see, I don't think that my camera would be even good enough for you to get good shots of this. But how I would go about this to see if I have enough info for starting a painting. I had proposed to. I can't talk and draw and paint either, so it's I'm on a loser here trying to do it. But I was going to draw this out again, and then go in, say this rock, go in and see what I remember about that particular rock, the shape of it and the shading of it, and what cragginess it had, and so on, and see how far I get in being precise about things in the drawing of it. And I'll have my watercolors out as well. So by doing this again, as I come along to each area that I'm drawing in, and then I'm going to paint, I will know what tonal information I have retained in my memory from being out there today. So it's my recent memory, I haven't lost it yet. And I will know when I get into the colour, I'll know what information I've retained in terms of colour. For example, even in this little bit that I was trying earlier, working from that drawing, I was working on some of the little ripple patterns and things that were in the water, and then the colours of edges of things, and then the ripples that were moving across here, and where bubbles were in the water and things. And just on that couple of washes, I was going, yeah, I don't have all the information for that either, but I am able to visualize in my head some of the information. So I know I have some of it, and I'm missing an extra aid of a drawing, you see, because if I had been out there longer, I would have done this. Then I would have gotten the other sketch pad out, the drawing sketch pad, and I would have done just a tonal drawing. So I would be working with this, and then I would have a tonal drawing that was just about structure and tone to work from as well. So you have two cues there. You have one that's mostly about colour, and one that would be mostly about, which I don't have because I didn't stay out long enough, one that is mostly about tone and structure. So you've already got more to work with. Now, these days, people like Turner wouldn't have had the advantage of having cameras. These days, you've also got the advantage of taking photos. And I said I was going to take photos, but my camera was full. It turned out to have loads of old videos on it I didn't know were there, so which I could have cleared off. But I got no photos today at all. So I don't have photos to back me up if I'm looking at structure and I'm going, I don't understand the way I did the structure in that drawing. It wasn't good enough to see the structure of this little part of the rock properly. I could go and look at the photo and go, oh yeah, I can see it clearer in the photo. So now you've got three things, three aids, right? So this is what happens with field trips. I might have to go out again, and I might have to go out several times, and that is the purpose of. That doesn't mean that you failed or anything. That's the purpose of field trips. Getting somewhere near you is advantageous because you can go out again and again and again. And even when you start the painting, you might have enough to put down the drawing groundwork for the painting, and then you start painting, and then you realize, no, it's I don't have it, or else the atmosphere of it or the memory of it in your mind isn't fresh. You're looking at these flat things on paper, but they're not doing it for you anymore. You have to go out again, don't you? So you go out again, you get more information, or you go out and maybe you just sit there and you know look at it. I don't usually do that. I usually do, if I went out again, I'd do some sort of sketching. But tonight I'm going to sit here and I'm going to draw this all out again and see how much information I got right. Because I'll know by the look of it when I get to a bit, if I'm drawing that tree here and I'm doing this now, I'll be like, okay, I can see it has moss there and the shadow is here and that branch is here. And then it intersects over here. Oh, I'm not understanding this bit here. I actually do understand it. I'm lying to you, but I'm not understanding why this shadow is here. Okay, if you don't understand why the shadow is here, you could actually head out with a little pair of binoculars and do it again because you can get a closer view of something on the further bank that you can't see properly. You also need an understanding of what's happening around the object sometimes. So if it's somewhere you can get to that you can walk around the back of it and look to see the mechanics of how that thing is put together. Because sometimes you see like branches are going to be intersecting and things, and you're going, I don't understand where that branch originates from. And in the drawing of it, that uncertainty about it is going to create a little area that isn't going to be understood by the viewer either. Because there's some little uncertainty then comes into your line when you waffle, when you do something that's just kind of, we'll just fuzzy that bit and it'll be grand and you won't notice and everything. Subconsciously, people will notice and they go, structure isn't, there's something, there's something not really. And this is why this is as a finished piece, this is a weak piece because there are things wrong structurally that I don't know why they're wrong, but there isn't enough understanding in the structure of particular things that were happening. Now, up here in the trees, I'm fairly happy with the structure of that, but there are bits not understood correctly elsewhere in it, I would say, that made it unsuccessful. Because as somebody who is pretending I am seeing it for the first time, because that's even if you made the thing yourself, you are the art critic or appreciator yourself. You're the viewer as well. It's not pleasing the eye in the way that something that has very very perfect structure that just click 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 clicks together perfectly because it makes sense mechanically, that creates a satisfying painting. And this doesn't, because I can't tell. This doesn't have, okay, it doesn't have the feel of watery, flowy, but it doesn't have structure of ripples explained enough. I haven't got the structure of them quite right. It's okay as a memory aid, but I remember that there were curly whirly little waves here, energetic ones, and then there were little curlicue ones over here. But I know that I didn't explain the structure of them exactly as they looked at the time. However, I could have enough there to start painting with, but I would go back and It's worth doing the whole thing out again to see, okay, look at this bit more, look at this bit more, and then go back out. I can even write all over this thing and go, this needs explaining, or put big circles around bits that I don't have right, and then go back out, get my photos, and do the sketches that I should have been really doing today, but I didn't get time to do. So I'm going to fiddle around doing this now for a while, put on a nice bit of music, and have an enjoyable time having to think about that, and having the memory of the place come back to me as well, because I will do, your imagination does do some work. You very rarely get a situation, you can do it now, but you very rarely, even as a representational painter, you don't too often get a situation where you want to paint exactly what's there, because sometimes you see a shadow or a highlight on something that you go, oh, it'd be even more beautiful if I just went, just had a just had that highlight just sitting up from the canvas a bit, and had it like a thick bit of paint, and then maybe glaze a bit of black under it so that it's sitting in under it to make the white even whiter, and shove the lip of the cup or whatever it is back a bit. You're actually playing God. You're trying to push the scene into looking the maximum, most amazing that you can. Now, it doesn't mean, when I say make the thing more beautiful, I don't mean make it like beautiful, like a um a postcard. No, you're finding what is beautiful about that particular bit of the painting. And if you are painting a person's face, and they're a person that you go, they are okay, they're not a person that somebody thinks is conventionally beautiful, you can find a lot of beauty in things that are conventionally ugly. And it's not until you're really observing something very close that you start seeing the beauty of the structure of it. And you actually forget about ideas like beautiful and ugly when you're totally locked into this way of looking at things, either as tones, and it interferes with your everyday walking around when you're painting a lot, because you can. I've talked to other friends that are painters, and they get the same thing. I'm not painting all the time anymore, so I don't get it as much. But you can be walking around, and suddenly the whole world, everything you're looking at, will lock into a tonal study, and the world looks flat. And you make it into a drawing, and you're walking around going, yeah, yeah, and you're looking at it, and you're actually drawing it as you're looking around, and then you go, oh, let's do a color one, and then you're looking, and the whole thing just turns into planes of color, and then you're looking at it in terms of light, and you're just looking at it as reflective surfaces, and it is very odd thing to happen, but it's very enjoyable as well. It doesn't make you very interesting in company, because you can end up looking very glazed. Sometimes people are talking, and you're there just playing this game, looking at things. But that's when you're seeing things in the sort of a way that somebody would when they're trained to do representational drawing skills or painting skills. Sort of makes you very analytical like that at looking at things. But obviously, if a scene appeals to you as well, that was, I suppose, the other thing we should talk about. Why does it appeal to you? It's not appealing to you because it's a series of interlocking planes, or it's not appealing to you because it's a series of colors that you're finding exciting. It's a mix of everything, but it's also it's the feeling it gives you. So you don't forget about the fact that art has to excite the person creating it. So if you are going out wanting to do a scene, don't just go out and do something that somebody else did and expect to be excited about it. You might have an idea in your head, I'm going to go out and do a picture of a forest now, and you go out, and it happens to me all the time. You go out, and that forest is not exciting, but something on the way, you go, oh, that's, oh, be prepared to change your mind. This is the fun thing about life, and always carry a sketch pad. When you go for a walk, always carry a sketch pad. You mightn't use it, but do carry it. And it's in my opinion, is not enough to paint from photographs. In my humble opinion, uh, certainly for me, I don't find it enough. Because I don't think there is enough information in photographs. The fact that the thing is flat already for a start, your perception of it is different. It's flattened. There's also a lot of color information missing from it as well. You won't get a full color range from it. Although you can get very high resolution photographs, and you get your shutter speeds and everything, you're going to get more info into something, but still and all. And then don't forget, when you're taking photographs, that's between you and the world, the thing that you're holding up to your eye. And you can't be standing there looking at the thing, but interacting with it as well. There is something about interacting with the world when you're sketching something that is a much more intimate thing than taking a photograph. Because taking a photograph only takes a second anyway, doesn't it? There is the idea of time as well. The time spent in the place doing the sketch is very important too, because the whole atmosphere is coming in. Like when I was sitting around today, I don't know how much of the bird song I heard, but I certainly heard a lot of the water sounds and everything, and was very much enjoying the fact that there was a quietness behind it as well. I did have music with me. I had some little Zen player with me. I didn't bother putting it on because it was so pleasant sitting there. Um, so there was the time spent there and the experience, and you're in a certain emotional place uh, when you're drawing or painting anyway. All you can go to various different places when you're painting. You're not going to be in the same mood all the time. Um, but that's part of the experience. So I don't know that photographs do it as well. They're great aids, though. And there are people who paint just from photographs, and there's a whole photorealist school of painting, and people paint exclusively from photographs. The results you get are they do feel different as for the viewer looking at them. I think that, but as paintings, they do feel different. They can be very exciting because the level of information you can get can be great in terms of structure. I don't think in terms of color you get it, but I do think in terms of structure for um, some of the painters in the 50s, I think it was 50s, 60s, was it? Maybe it was even the 70s. There was a whole American school of photorealism going on. There were some amazing, amazing people working. The stuff was, you couldn't tell it wasn't a photo, but that's not to diss it. That sounds like a diss. They were painterly in that the compositions and what they were painting were very exciting things to paint. And there was also this idea that you knew that it wasn't a photograph was very exciting as well, because it was an intellectual exercise as well in um, something about knowing that this wasn't a real world thing, and it wasn't a hyper real photograph either. um, Made it mind blowing, because you sort of brought up a lot of kind of weird questions in your head about like what is art's function, and and what how well your perception can be fooled into living in this thing, and kind of messed you up a bit. Anyhow, I am waffling now, but you can waffle a lot about art because it's a very personal thing, and conversations about art, you see, they'd be very. I think conversations about art would be very different between artists. This is what I have discovered. Very different between artists' conversations about art than they are between people who have seen art and are talking about art that they have seen, who have not. done any painting or drawing or anything themselves, because, or even people who have not done very much and have a bit of a, I would call, a poor understanding of what art is for, or what it does, or what you're aiming at in art. Even I even had difficulty getting that out, because the idea of creating art, making a piece of art because you're aiming to make it look like a flower, or you're aiming to make, that is a, to somebody who's an artist, that's a misunderstanding of what art is about, because somebody like Picasso would be saying, no, art is to be asking questions. It's not to copy something in the real world and convince somebody that it looks like it. That's not really the, if you're painting for that reason, um is that a good enough reason to be painting something? I know a lot of people, like kind of Sunday painters, what you'd call them, have that reason for painting, because I've talked to people about this. They're trying to get it to look like something in the real world. And then you have a conversation with them and you go, okay, why? And they go, what do you mean why? Because, I want to make it look like it. I go, but why do you want to make it look like that thing? And they go, well, because that's what art is. And I go, well, why would you want to be an artist if the thing is in the world already? Why do you have a need to make this flat thing that looks like a thing in the world? And they go, oh, well, because I've always admired other artists, and it'd be nice to sell something. And they then come up with rational reasons, but the rational reasons they come up with have nothing to do with um honest reasons for creating art. The honest reasons for creating art is that you're exploring something. You're looking at the world and you're going, wow, I wonder how that works. Or you're asking some sort of a question about it, or you're wanting to be in it or something. There's something you're not understanding that you're having to ask about. So there's people talk about art being a gift and everything. I don't go in for that at all. I don't know any gifted people who came out of the womb being fabulous at doing something and just persisted. There are some people who are going to be maybe better than other people due to maybe genetics or maybe environment. I don't know, but it's not a gift. It's an interest. It's a fascination with doing a particular thing because you love it, because it excites you and stimulates you. So anything you love and find exciting and stimulating, why do you love it? What is it that makes you do it? It's usually that there's some little mystery about it, that you're sort of going, oh, I have to understand that. I really want to understand that. And that's like what a lot of creative endeavors are about. They're about, being so intrigued by something that you just have to, you know, you just have to ask the question, or find out, or I don't even need to find out. I just love asking the question. Like when I'm out in a beautiful place and I get an urge to draw, I go, oh, and it's always, I'm not thinking it, logically in my conscious mind. I'm not thinking I must understand how that works, but I know that that's going on. That I'm leaning into it, going, oh, look at what that does. Ooh, and look at that. And it's all very exciting because it's something you don't know. I'm not exactly doing it to see, can I get the thing to look like the thing. That's not the point at all. It's nice at the end. If it happens to look like, if it's representational painting, it is happening. It's nice if somebody can recognize it's a tree or something, if you meant to do a tree. But if a painting didn't turn out well and you had to chuck it in the bin, you shouldn't care. You should have so little ego when you're painting that you should not care if the darn thing is horrendous and you throw it in the bin. It's very freeing painting for yourself. Actually, you get more nervous if you paint commissions or paint for other people or paint on live streams or something. You start getting a bit nervous about things. But there's no there's no compulsion to keep it. It was the doing of it that was the exciting bit, wasn't it? Should never worry about your ego, because that's only ego. If you're really disappointed, "Oh, I'm not painting anymore, I'm terrible at it." That's your ego. Now, it's hard to enjoy doing something over and over and over again when you are not seeing um, the results as pleasing, because there is a level of frustration there and everything. But there is a sense in which you have to drop the ego completely when you're doing something, because there's a level of honesty required with any creative endeavor that is beyond which most people want to go. They want to stay in the fantasy place of, oh, I'm great. Oh, I look like an artist. I'm wearing the right clothing, and I have the right gear and everything, and and then I must be good because I have the right pencils. And you have to let go of all these things. Oh, there's so much stuff you have to let go that are we're very nice little convenient things that prop you up, and you would never try on new in art, you see, if you didn't let go of the ego, and you didn't. Now, you don't have to, like, if people say, "Oh, you've been painting, show it to me," you can say, you're allowed to say, "No, I don't want to," for no particular reason, or just say, "No, I don't like it. I wasn't happy with it. I don't want to show it to you." You're not getting a test at the end of it, basically, So don't worry about it and just enjoy it, even if you're terrible at it, or if you're great at it, share it with people, do, you know. Uh, I don't know. That sounded like a bit of a lecture at the end. That would be my way of thinking. These are just the things that I have said to myself, as I've been working at it. I haven't worked at it for very many years. I'm not an artist anymore. Um, but they were conversations I'd had with myself, because that seemed to be always the conversation that came up. How, I need to be more honest in my painting. That's actually what makes a good painting, more than anything else, more than any talent or anything. Honesty when you're painting, that makes a good painting. And you wouldn't think people could spot that, but they can spot an honest painting. And you can spot a slick one that's borrowing somebody else's trick, and that's not you. That's the point. Your individuality comes out in it. So don't be afraid to be yourself in it. And if you're not finding who you are when you're painting, don't worry, you'll find it. You keep painting and keep being honest when you're doing it, and keep making an honest effort doing it. And your personality will start coming out in the painting, and your paintings will not be like anybody else's painting. It'll be as different as your own fingerprint, which is what you want in painting. You don't want to. Have you ever wanted to walk into a gallery and see all the same? All the paintings look the same, all the same subject, and all exactly the same. Nobody wants that. It's the individual painter's whole personality, or what they call his style, because you do develop your own style if you're doing it long enough. Um, and you can develop it quite quickly as well, people's style does start to emerge fairly quickly when they're using a particular medium. So, but that's the fun side of it, being seeing what'll come out. It's like your handwriting, isn't it? Everybody's handwriting. They might have all got taught to do handwriting in school. Some people's handwriting, because they all got taught so severely. Some people's looks very similar, but even still, there will be little differences in it. So have fun with it. Sorry, I'm so stuffed up sounding. It's from my e-cig. It's still a poison when it's it doesn't matter if you're getting tar or nicotine. The nicotine is still a poison. Like, I'm clearly allergic to the thing, so I got to give them up. All right, bye bye. I'm going to stop chatting. Oh my God, 59 minutes I've been going on for. Oh well, nobody's watching anyway. What the hell? Bye bye. Just in case you were watching.